This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast, everybody. It is Tuesday, November 29th, 2022. Monday Night Raw occurred last night from the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia, and hope all of you are doing well. We're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, the fallout from Survivor Series, the new developments as we have a massive gap from pay-per-view to pay-per-view. We've got a lot of time now between here and the Royal Rumble, because the Royal Rumble doesn't take place until January 28th, 2023. So there's ample time for WWE to slow their storytelling down and tell the story that they want for whatever matches that they want for the Rumble that are going to inevitably set up for WrestleMania 39, which is not that far away. And we can now officially say, at least in my world, which is the most important world, that WrestleMania match, the card for WrestleMania, the matches, we can start to speculate now. I mean, you could make that argument at SummerSlam. I often do every year. Not every match and every consequence of SummerSlam leads to WrestleMania. Some do, usually one or two things that happen at SummerSlam. This year may or may not be the same. But now we can start really looking towards WrestleMania, because the next event is the Rumble, which is, of course, their official start to the road to WrestleMania. So as the dominoes start to fall here, we can start to look at this in a very real way for WrestleMania 39 and look at the card. And I mean, I don't right now have the championship, the top championship, the Undisputed Championship match locked in, other than we know Roman Reigns is going to be a half of that. You know, one half is going to be Roman Reigns. The other half is one of four people to me. It's Cody Rhodes, Bray Wyatt, hell, could be Seth Rollins, or The Rock. To me, I mean, you can make arguments for others. You could come up with 5-6 opponents. I've narrowed it down to about 4. And as we get closer, those names will be likely narrowed down. And yes, even Sami Zayn's in the conversation if you want to add a fifth person to that list of individuals who could face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Because we all know, let's be serious, Roman Reigns is going to WrestleMania as champion. They're not going to go into the Rumble and have Roman not be champion. It's not happening, which means the Royal Rumble, the winner of the Rumble, is more than likely going to challenge Roman Reigns. Is that The Rock? We don't know. I think it's the match we all want. You know, we've been talking about that for almost years now. I think I can say plural years. Yeah, and not just me. Tons of other fans and other podcasts as well. Trust me, I don't think that I'm any kind of philosopher or messiah when it comes to predicting the future. I'm not Nostradamus. That's what I'm going for. So I really don't believe right now that we're going to be able to know for sure. I would imagine WWE knows who's going to face Roman Reigns. And outside of that, when you look at the matches, you could possibly say the tag team championship with the Usos defending against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. That's my guess right now as it stands. But 4 months out of WrestleMania, and maybe the women's division with the Ronda Rousey versus Becky one-on-one for the Smackdown Women's Championship. And even on the Raw side, you can say, hey, Charlotte versus Bayley versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. I mean, that could be a fatal four-way when you think about that. Because I think Charlotte's going to Raw, and I think Becky's going to go to SmackDown in some massive trade towards the Rumble or after the Rumble. And then we're off to the races with Becky and Ronda. So how about that for some WrestleMania 39 talk to start off this Monday Night Raw review? But let's get back to reality. Let's get back to present day. And let's talk about Monday Night Raw that emanated last night. It started off with Becky Lynch. And if you didn't think that she's a babyface, or at least maybe you're questioning, are they going to go through with the babyface character or not? Yeah, there's no question about it. Becky Lynch is a babyface. She should remain a babyface through WrestleMania and maybe beyond forever. Because they tried the heel thing. It got a little bit of heat, a little bit of traction, but it felt very Stone Cold-esque. People didn't want to hate her. They didn't want to. She also didn't change her music. That didn't help. But fans just gravitate to her in a very organic way. So it's very difficult to hate Becky Lynch. And they did their best. She gave it her all, but it just didn't work. And that's okay. Because Ronda, I think, is much more suited to be a heel. Becky is a great babyface. So Becky Ronda for WrestleMania is going to be awesome. But this, at least awesome in the sense that it's finally happening. We'll see if, Ronda Rousey is as boring as she is now in a few months, but that's another rant for another day. Becky Lynch starts off Raw. I'm getting there, guys. I'm getting to Raw. I'm getting to what I said this whole show is going to be about. She comes out and she starts to pander pretty transparently to the fans. And she does her whole, the man has come around thing again. So we're back to the man. We are now back to that persona. And she said that she wants to hang out with the fans. And she wants to come out into the crowd and try to be one of us, in so many words. And she comes out and she finds a guy, older gentleman, in a bright yellow sweatshirt, which I think is just a complete giveaway that this guy is a plant. His name is Bob, and he doesn't say a whole lot other than, just one word responses to whatever Becky was saying. So clearly a plant. And it's so obvious too, because when you look out at the audience from the hard cam, he's the one person that stands out. So it was easy for Becky to spot him wearing a bright yellow t-shirt or sweatshirt. I don't know how many yellow wrestling attire or wrestling merchandise there is, which is exactly why they had him wear it, so Becky could easily identify him. I don't know any yellow, actually. Maybe the New Day might sell something yellow. But outside of that, most merch is black. Most. I mean, you have purple for John Cena. John Cena did the whole rainbow. I mean, he was the full Lucky Charms cereal. That's what he did. But most are black. Black fits nearly everything. So anyway, she comes out there and she's trying to pander and say that she's one of us and all this and that. And she was quickly interrupted by Bayley, who was making fun of her for giving the crowd any kind of respect or that looking for their validation. I mean, so Becky went in there and saying that she missed the fans. She actually wanted to shake hands and she gave high fives and complimented people. And it was, to me, I didn't hate it. It's just not my style when we have such a pandering babyface. I don't like it. Just my personal preference. But Becky Lynch is still a great babyface. This led to Dakota Kai and Io Sky coming through the crowd, brawling after Bayley came out, of course. And then they fought into the concourse. A merchandise stand was destroyed. And Becky Lynch ended up fighting them, all three of the members of Damage Control off. Security came in, broke up the fight. It was fun. I mean, it was a fun way to start Raw. I think that it was a different way. Certainly different, where Becky's in the crowd. And how many times do you see a brawl spill into the concourse at the beginning of Raw? I don't know the last time that happened. I'm sure it has. I just can't remember when. So it was a different way to start it, and that's, to me, the most important part. And it also tells you that Becky Lynch and Bayley are going to be paired up for the foreseeable future, probably through Rumble. I would imagine that these two women are going to be paired up through the Rumble, which then leads to Bayley doing whatever she's doing for WrestleMania and Ronda and Becky. So I'm cool with it. I mean, I think we can all deal with Bayley and Becky Lynch for the next 8 weeks. Definitely, right? Right? Okay. Yeah, we'll see, right? Our attention spans as fans and society is 0, right? But good stuff here. I didn't hate it. So let's move on. I thought it was fun. Rhea Ripley versus Mia Yim or Michin. At first I thought they were like trying to give the Japanese pronunciation of Mia Yim. Maybe that's what it is, but it's Michin is Michin and Mia Yim is Miayim. So I don't know. Tomato, tomato. Mia Yim is what I'll call her. Took on Rhea Ripley, and Dominic was ringside for support. This match was pretty good, and honestly, this was a coming out party for Mia Yim on Raw. We'll get to the second part of it, but the first part with Mia Yim having a nice matchup with Rhea Ripley, really, I think for fans, just at least put her in the minds of fans, where she was just kind of an extra with the OC. If you've never seen her before as a fan, you're looking at her going, yeah, who's this again? Right? Like, I don't know, right? But now you know who she is. You know her name, and you know that she's good to really good in the ring. So you have something to base her character off of now, rather than just this kind of random person on the scene to help the OC fight off Rhea Ripley. Because, as we all know, Rhea Ripley has this magical force field around her called being a woman, where it allows her the privilege of doing whatever she wants to the men, and they can't do anything in return, which in reality is only because they have sponsors, and it's a PG show, and they don't want to have the pitchfork cancel mob coming after them for promoting, some kind of misogynistic, patriarchal system or company that they have running them there, right? That's really the answer. Okay, if you're going to give them truth serum, that's exactly what it is. Because in reality, this wouldn't fly. I mean, there's no law in the books that says well, if you're a woman, you can just do whatever you want. That's not how that works, right? But I understand what they're trying to do, protecting the image. It's just getting a little. It's beyond egregious at this point with Rhea Ripley just continuing to do anything she wants. And you know what, Mia Yim in the tag team match, which I'll talk about in a minute, sure, she slammed Finn Balor, but fans love that, and I think there are times where the woman and the men can interact, but I don't know. It's just like the men just are subservient whenever a woman is attacking them, and they just go, oh, well, you're a woman. Okay, do what you will with me. You want to slam my head into a steel chair, kick me below the belt. What do you want to do to me today? I am your piñata. I hate it. It just is. I know other people are just don't care about this. I find it just distracting, unnecessary, and frustrating. But okay. This was, but by the way, Rhea Ripley and Mia Yim, I think have really good chemistry. And Rhea Ripley is really, she's like the Sami Zayn of the Judgment Day. Without Rhea Ripley, the Judgment Day would be rather boring. Yes, you have Dominic, who's also hated beyond words by fans, and there's a lot of stuff that's great happening there that also is going to lead to the inevitable match between Rey and Dominic at WrestleMania. There's another match you can probably pencil in at this time, but Rhea Ripley just adds that element of, okay, she's got this invisible shield of being a woman, which is ridiculous, but it's there. And then she also is playing like a kind of a mother figure to Dominic in a creepy, just uncomfortable way. And it's believable, which makes it even weirder. And then she also is really good in the ring. And she's just kind of found herself. She's more relaxed. She's just kind of just being her. She's found her place. It feels like that anyway. And right now, Rhea Ripley's riding high. She is going to be women's champion. I wouldn't be surprised if she takes the belt before WrestleMania. I don't think she will, but there's 4 months to WrestleMania. I wouldn't hate it. Rhea Ripley as women's champion is coming, and it should. So this matchup, though, was good. It eventually broke down into the OC in a four-person tag team matchup with Rhea and the Judgment Day versus the OC and Mia Yim. And this whole segment took up like 45 minutes, I think. It took up a lot of time. I mean, it was pure wrestling. And that's a great way to fill time, by the way. Instead of worrying about the entertainment-y stuff and the extras and the bad attempts at comedy and the backstage segments, all that. great way to fill up your wrestling show is, with wrestling and have longer matches. Something to think about. I think Triple H has found a formula here where he doesn't have to stress so much about coming up with stuff to fill out 3 hours of content and, of course, minus commercials, but still. All right. But this match also was really good. This was fun, and it was, it did what it needed to do. It also had the Judgment Day get the victory here because it was Rhea Ripley who hit Riptide on Mia Yim to get the victory. So, of course, the most hated person in the group, rivaled by Dominic, gets the victory, and you're pissed, right? Like, you want to see the Judgment Day finally just get a decisive loss as a team. And we haven't seen that yet, to my knowledge. So I really enjoyed this. It's a great way to continue to get heat. And it continues to set up for the Edge and Beth Phoenix return, which is, I don't know exactly when that's coming. I have to be honest. I thought it was going to be at Survivor Series. I mean, it still could be before the Rumble, but if it's going to happen, I would imagine that, probably a week or 2 or 3 weeks before the Rumble, maybe the first show in 2023, which is always usually a hot show because you're past the holidays, you're just full steam ahead for the road to WrestleMania. The first show after the New Year is always a hot show, as long as it doesn't fall on New Year's Day. But that's the one I'm looking to for an Edge and Beth Phoenix return. So we've got probably, 5 weeks or so until that happens. That's my guess. And then you're off to the races with Edge once again, facing off against somebody with the in the Judgment Day. Or maybe it's a tag team match again with Beth Phoenix and Edge versus, I don't know, Finn Balor or Dominic and Rhea. How about that? All right. So, I'm looking at notes here. Apparently, Mia Yim's real name is Michin. So, if that's her real name, then I'm all for it. I thought it was just kind of this nickname or Korean version of her name or what have you. But, all right. Let's see what happened next. The Bloodline celebrates and Alpha Academy versus the Street Profits. So, the Usos, Sami Zayn, Soul's Cold, minus Roman Reigns, came to the ring and they celebrated their win. KO came out, and this to me, I'm going to play some audio because it's worth you guys hearing this rather than hearing it from me, because I want you to really hone in on what Kevin Owens is saying here. It is paramount that you listen to this. For any that think that Sami Zayn is actually a part of the Bloodline right now, y'all need to listen to this because it is going to come back to haunt Sami and anyone that believes that Sami Zayn is actually a part of the Bloodline. If you watch Raw, you know where I'm going with this, but I can't stress enough how much this is going to be paramount moving forward. It's a massive clue into what's going to happen with Sami, and it also is going to be used for sure in the promo videos after the Bloodline breaks up with Sami and there's a messy breakup and they beat him down, which is coming. This sentence from Kevin Owens, this phrase, is going to be at at front and center of that video package. So take a listen.
But Sami, here's the thing. Doesn't matter how many times they tell you you're in the Bloodline, and it doesn't matter how many times you call them family. Just remember this. You're not their real blood, and you never will be.
I can't tell you guys how how important that line's going to be, because that eventually, in my mind, is going to be the downfall of Sami Zayn. When things start to go wrong, and maybe the Bloodline goes on a losing streak, or maybe it puts Roman Reigns in a precarious position with a Sami Zayn loss or a miscommunication or something, it's all going to come back to Sami, and eventually it's going to come to blows, and Sami Zayn is either going to try to infiltrate, or his infiltration is going to be revealed, if my theory was correct, where he's just committing to getting Roman to believe him and trust him, but in reality his real agenda is to destroy the Bloodline. Or if he's truly invested and the Bloodline turn on him, Either way, it's the same result. Sami Zayn is not going to last in this group, and it will come back to the fact that when the Bloodline explain what they did and why they did what they did to Sami, their narrative is going to be, he was never blood. That's, how can you be a part of the Bloodline when you're not blood? That's in so many ways. There's a lot of ways to phrase this, but that is going to be the central focus of, I believe, the inevitable breakup with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, which, of course, the timing of that is up for debate. It could happen before the Rumble, could happen at the Rumble, could happen towards WrestleMania. A lot of possibilities here as we move towards the big part of their schedule, big part of the year for WWE. So, all right, let's see here. What else did we get? Oh, Alpha Academy versus the Street Profits. I mean, the Street Profits get the victory here. They're a forgotten tag team. Like, really forgotten. I mean, I forgot they even were on the show. I mean, I know who they are, obviously, but like when I saw them on Raw, I looked at the review because I had to go back and watch this since it wasn't on Hulu because that's how important they are right now. And I was like, oh, that's right. Like, what the hell are they doing? Remember at one point they were having issues. It looks like they were going to Splitsville, and then they're not. And then, they're after the tag team titles, and then they're not. Then they're backstage doing random interviews or in comedy segments. And then they're in a random match. Like, the Street Profits have no direction right now at all. They're kind of an embodiment of the tag team division as a whole in WWE. Like, they embody what the tag team division is, meaning they're kind of directionless. They sometimes come up to the front of the line of importance, but more often than not, they're kind of the forgotten middle child. For all you middle children out there, I just offended. But you get my drift. I think the Street Profits have more juice left to squeeze. I don't think that this is the end of them. Nor do I think they should break up in a tag team division that has been weak for decades in WWE. But them getting a victory over the Alpha Academy right now is like getting a victory over, two residents at a nursing home. Like, it doesn't mean anything because the Alpha Academy right now couldn't beat my two young children in a tag team match. Okay. Like, that's how they've been booked. That's not how I would book them, but that's how they've been treated. They are the in-house enhancement tag team talent. And it's a shame because the Street Profits, or the Alpha Academy, I think deserve more. All right, let's see. The Miz versus Dexter Lumis. This was on Hulu. This I did see in full in its entirety. And, I'm glad that this is over. I want to say, I hope this is over. I'm ready for this to be over. I'm ready for this just to be done. What's amazing to me is, and of course we're not supposed to think about this, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, you don't even think twice about it, or if you do, you just dismiss it. It's amazing how someone that doesn't have a WWE contract already has his own entrance music, his own graphics. He's been on TV for months. It's amazing. And he's been attacking WWE wrestlers, superstars, for months. And yet he doesn't have a contract? So how's he here exactly? How is he fighting for a contract that he apparently doesn't have? Yet he's able to do all these things, and production went through the trouble of creating him an entrance music, and he's able to go through the gorilla and backstage, and no one's saying anything. Security's okay with it. I mean, I know a lot of you out there, that's wrestling. You're thinking too much. Well, not really. Like, this one's kind of egregious. It's kind of silly. It reminds me a little bit of, although not nearly as bad, of the group Retribution. Remember that whole just beautifully done story during the pandemic era where WWE was just throwing crap at the wall and seeing what stuck? And they had chainsaws out. Remember that whole thing? I should do a whole episode on them. But I'm old enough to remember that. I'm sure you are too. It reminded me of that because at one point they were destroying property, like left and right, just outright vandalism, and also committing assault on national television, and WWE decided to give them contracts. They awarded them contracts. They were fighting for contracts. They were throwing stuff through glass windows and destroying, the ring and everybody around it, and chased out fans, and caused a massive, if this was the real world, a massive liability for for PR, are you kidding, for lawsuits attacking fans and things, and all of a sudden WWE rewards them with contracts? I mean, that was just so stupid. There's no other way to put it. This isn't nearly as egregious, but it's kind of a limb off that tree where Dexter Lumis is competing for something that he clearly already has. And, we have Adam Pearce out there who's being the kind of stand-in WWE official that is suddenly back to being a WWE official and relevant with the contract, and Dexter Lumis signs it. What? I mean, again, I'm not angry about this. It's just can you stop insulting my intelligence? But this was actually an okay match. But the best part about this was two things. One, I actually like Dexter Lumis's. I mean, his look is obviously why he's here. He's by the way, insanely good shape. His body type is it's made to be a pro wrestler. His entrance music I like a lot. His entrance in general is eerie. It's different from everyone else's. I like Dexter Lumis's entrance a lot. I know it's not a ton to break down about it. It's simple but creepy. I like it. What the funny part was after Dexter Lumis took the bag of money and he's handing out single $100 bills to kids, and they're just, by the way, you're giving money to kids that they can't spend, because guess what they're going to do in 5 seconds? Their parents are going to say, "Hey, can I have that?" I mean, you think the kids know that he's handing it to 7-year-old, boys and girls? Do you think they're going to take it and go, "No, Daddy, that's mine"? More likely, no. They're going to say, Daddy's going to say, "Let me hang on to that for you, sweetie." Yeah, right in the pocket. So he's making it appear, of course, that he's giving these kids money, and that's what baby faces do. No problem here. But the funny part about this was not just that, but also Dexter Lumis gives a $100 bill to some girl towards the end of the ramp. The Miz goes and steals that $100 bill back from the kid. I think it might have been a boy or girl. I can't remember. Back from the child, and the crowd booed the hell out of that. And I actually thought, I was that's kind of a D move. And then we had Johnny Gargano come out, lay out the Miz, give the $100 bill back to the child, who I would imagine is also a plant, but who knows. And so all's well that ends well. Dexter Lumis gets his money, and hopefully this is the end of things here with the Miz and Dexter Lumis. I'm ready for both parties to move on here. It's been a little bit much, but it's over. I hope. So there's that. All right. Yeah, I didn't hate it. This had its moments. So, all right. So Dakota Kai took on Candice LeRae. This was not a part of Hulu, as you'd imagine, but Candice LeRae got the victory. I saw some highlights here on WWE's YouTube page. That's where I go for the highlights for these things. No issue here from a wrestling technical perspective. No, nothing wrong here. The only thing I can throw shade at is the fact that this is a cold match. Why do I care who wins or loses? There's really no purpose for this match, but at least emotionally, and no investment here for most fans. But Candice LeRae getting out in front of fans is important. That, to me, is the goal here. We know who Dakota Kai is now. Candice LeRae needs to get going. Just like Mia Yim had her breakout night last night, Candice LeRae needs to have kind of one of those nights. So this wasn't one of them. It was a good match, but it's not one of them if you cut them out of Hulu and they're kind of in a throwaway match with no emotional investment. But Candice LeRae gets the victory here, and that's the way it should be, because she needs victories more than Dakota Kai does. And by the way, what are they doing with the Women's Tag Teams Championships again? Feels eerily familiar to when things were being run by Vince and the Women's Tag Team division vanished, even though there was a set of championships to go in that division. Feels very much the same right now. It's it's at least trending in that direction where we have women's tag team champions, but nothing's happening with them. Now, maybe they're waiting for a returning Sasha and Naomi to reclaim what they never lost that they gave up. And maybe that's the story. So perhaps Sasha and Naomi are on their way back. I'm not confirming anything. We all thought Sasha was coming back in Boston. That certainly wouldn't have been the place to do it. But maybe that is what they're waiting for, because boy, there is not a women's tag team division. Once again, there's champions, but they're running unopposed. So, okay, let's see what else happened. The main event, well, before I get to the main event, there was a segment with Seth Rollins and Austin Theory regarding the United States Championship. Austin Theory came out, not a whole lot to write home about with his promo, no massive statements or messages to send. But from a pure visual standpoint, I think he looked and felt different. I think he just wore a little bit of a different jacket, a little bit of a different outfit. I like the facial hair on Austin Theory. It adds like 5 to 6 years onto his age, which is a good thing. He's in his early 20s, so I think looking older at his age is a good thing. As we all, in the rest of our lives, for like 90% of us are trying to go the opposite way or look the opposite way, right? But for Austin Theory's purposes, he should look older. And he's got a nice demeanor. He's got a nice promo. Always has a nice promo. And having Seth Rollins come out and, say congratulations, but then calling him kid in his ear was great, because that's the exact image, the exact mindset that he's trying to get away from. He's trying to rebrand himself as this mature adult that's been around the block. He's not the future. He's the here and now. And Seth is poking and prodding at his insecurities and going against his willful narrative of being no longer a child. And obviously he's not, but in the scheme of WWE, you kind of are. So Seth calling him kid was a great line. And I have to say that Seth also being a babyface here and not changing much about his character at all is great. How many times do we see heels turn to babyfaces and suddenly they care instantly on a dime what the crowd thinks, looking for crowd reaction, instantly complimenting the crowd, smiling way more than they need to, just completely changing who they are at their core. And I hate that. I can't stand it. The best babyfaces the best heels that turn babyface are ones that don't change who they are. They don't change who they are at their core. They don't suddenly flip and be this transparent, pandering babyface. We've seen that happen. Seth did it. Seth is a perpetrator of this. Seth did this in his first heel to babyface turn, and it was awful, and it didn't work, and the fans rejected it. This time, he's just continuing to be himself, and his song is getting him over. Of course, his in-ring work speaks for itself. He's not hammering the crowd. He's playing into them wanting to, be maestros and sing along to his song. And he played on that. I really wonder if Seth would be in this position if he didn't have this theme song. It's amazing the impact that a theme song can have. But Seth right now is in a really good place as a babyface. Fans organically connect with him. They respect him. They've booed him so much that they're kind of like, can we just cheer him now? Yeah, there does come that time of exhaustion, of just like, okay, we've gotten everything out that we wanted to. But again, he hasn't changed who he is at his core. Some of the best examples ever, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's the anti-hero. He didn't change who he was. He did some questionable things as a babyface. He was edgy. He didn't suddenly start pandering to the crowd and complimenting them. No. And I hope Roman Reigns follows suit. Whenever he officially turns babyface, which I think may happen in 2023, like later in the year, like a year from now, we could be talking about a massive babyface turn for Roman, or it might have already happened, maybe at SummerSlam or something. But for Roman, I wouldn't change a damn thing. People are already cheering him. Hell, even with the turn or solidification of Sami at least on the surface, looking like he has aligned himself with the Bloodline on Raw and at Survivor Series, they're still cheering Sami in that group. I mean, when they went in for the hugs, right? When Sami and Jey and Jimmy were hugging and they wanted Solo to get in on it, the fans were all about it. Is that the earmark? Are those the earmarks of a really hated heel group? Of course not. That's the power of connection with the fans. And even though Sami Zayn turned on his friend again, I'm a little bit surprised that the fans weren't booing that decision. That the fans weren't really just completely laying into Sami. I really am, but the connection with Sami is even stronger than I thought. And I just, hey, I'm happy for Sami, as Kevin Owens said too. And I didn't mean to bring this all the way back to Sami Zayn, but I wanted to talk about Austin Theory and Seth, and that's where I'll end it. But I don't know where this ends though for Seth, from a babyface perspective, or how long it's gonna last, because you know who's on the horizon, right? I keep talking about this: Cody Rhodes. I need to drill this home though, because remember when Cody Rhodes left? It was after Seth lost to him a third time, and Seth, quote unquote, injured him, even though he already had a torn pec. Seth just attacked him from behind as he was leaving. And so, you can't have Cody Rhodes return and not attack Seth. You would think. Because then that would cut his babyface run pretty short. And he'd be back to being the obnoxious heel while we're all supposed to cheer for Mr. Suit wearing, encyclopedia Cody Rhodes. All right. Well, then we get the main event. The main event of Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens. You know what you're going to get here. Great quality wrestling match. Good pacing. 400 more super kicks than there need to be. And that's exactly what we got. Now, Kevin Owens did get the victory here. I was a bit surprised. I thought they continued to put heat on the bloodline, but they didn't. Kevin Owens gets the victory with like 30 seconds left on Raw. I didn't think they were going to get to the end of the match. They just did. KO hit a stunner on Jey Uso, and then after he hit the 1, 2, 3, immediately ran out of the ring because he knew the bloodline were going to beat him down. And it was a good victory for Kevin. And I think that to me, you want to talk about statement victories, statement wins. That was one only because the bloodline are super hot right now. And it's going to, I think, put Kevin Owens in line for a championship opportunity against Roman Reigns. I mean, that has to be he has to be the stopgap. I think Kevin Owens is that stopgap for Roman Reigns before WrestleMania. So Roman can, have match after match with him, and then his, Roman Reigns will start to get serious with whoever he's going to go on the run to WrestleMania with towards February or so. So I think you're going to see Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns at each other's throats, probably through Rumble. So, all right, let's see what else happened here. I think that might have been it. The super kick, of course, is insanely overused. And the problem with the super kick, yes, it's overused, and everyone uses it like a clothesline. But not only is it overused and everyone's added it to their arsenal, but it's undersold. In fact, it's not sold at all. And how it's not a finish outside of Dolph Ziggler is really amazing. Because, Shawn Michaels must be just like throwing his hands up like, what have they done to my finish? They've turned it into a headlock. And when you think about what the move is, imagine someone actually doing that to you. It's a knockout shot. That maneuver is a knockout shot under the chin. And it's barely even sold. It's a transition move at best. It's undersold. Like, what I mean by that is, if you actually had that maneuver done to you, like, you should be down on the ground, clenching your chin, or just like look like you're completely knocked out. I don't know. I mean, something other than just like, oh, he had a super kick. Time to go to the next move sequence. No, like, I don't know. The super kick is insane right now. It's absolutely insane. The DDT is trying to be redefined, by the way. I'm appreciating like Alexa Bliss and others trying to redefine the DDT as a finish. That's much appreciated. We'll eventually, I think, get there with the super kick, but the super kick, I understand why so many use it. It's fairly easily delivered. It's fairly easily taken. All you have to do is take a back bump. It's safe, relatively. You're not trying to pretend you're dropping somebody on their head. You don't have to flip somebody up. There's no strength involved from carrying your opponent's weight. It's, that kind of thing. So it is relatively low risk compared to other maneuvers. But it's just, I don't know. I feel it's been completely neutered. That's the word I'm looking for. The super kick has been neutered, my friends. So, all right. I think that concludes everything for me tonight, guys, for the Monday Night Raw review. I know that there's a lot going on in NXT right now. I think I'm looking at some of the news that's going on, and HBK seems to be involved in things, and I'll leave that to our NXT expert, which is, of course, Memphis Mark, who is going to be doing the NXT review. I'll be posting that tomorrow, and that I'm looking forward to that as we quietly come out of the Rumble, towards the Rumble season, out of Survivor Series, and towards a pay-per-view that I think that a lot of fans look at as their favorite pay-per-view. Michael Cole, for what it's worth, has said it's his favorite pay-per-view. I believe that. And I think that for most of us, we look at it as just a fun time to be a fan, because you always look at it as who could be returning? Who's number 21? Who's number 22? Anything from like 20 on is interesting as hell, because, there's always that return, always that surprise or a nostalgic cameo. I remember like Diesel came out one year and it was like 2016 or something. So you never know. It's a great time. Amazing concept. So that's what we're headed towards. The rest of the week, again, NXT tomorrow. Then we have our AEW review with Travis Hughes. We've got our retro show coming up this Friday from Anthony DeMarco. By the way, check out Anthony DeMarco and my conversation, about 45 minutes long, yesterday, wrapping up the whole Survivor Series, looking ahead to WrestleMania 39, who could take the belt off of Roman, who's realistic to Sami Zayn, what's his real agenda, that kind of thing. So great conversation. Check that out yesterday on the current state of WWE. But also, if you're interested in going ad-free, great time to do it. I know there's a lot of ads, especially when you get to the holiday season. Podcasts and everything else have a ton of ads because, hey, got to make your buck. But if you want to get rid of those ads for $1 a month, head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast and get everything we do ad-free. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate it. Consider giving us a 5-star rating on any podcast app that you can, and I will talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.